All right, folks, let's knock it out. It's Sunday night. Game has been over for over 24 hours now, so had time to really process and think about it and really give myself the opportunity to process everything that I saw out there because it was a disconcerting game in some regards. It was the kind of game that makes you question what you think you know about your team, and it's going to affect the way I feel going into this offseason. But let's just focus on this game and what we can learn from this one because season's over. 36-20 Atlanta. They beat us, pretty much beat us down. It wasn't completely non-competitive, but when this game was over, I think everybody who watched that game had a pretty good idea that Atlanta was clearly the better team, and um, it of course, it sucks to have your season end in this way. It was not a bad season at all. The team showed a lot of heart. They fought through some adversity. They won 10 games. They won a playoff game. They were in the conversation to advance to the Super Bowl, and they didn't do it. But you're not going to win the Super Bowl every year. I get that. And I'm proud that I root for a team that has won one in the last few years, but this year it's not going to happen. And when you have a team that has the opportunity to get there and they don't, it sucks. But you got to be realistic as well. So this game, first of all, let's start with some of the good, positive takeaways that I have, because there are a couple of things you can be happy about going into next season. Full shout out to Paul Richardson, who looks like he might not be a one-game fluke. He made some great catches out there today. He barely missed making a 50-yard catch in the fourth quarter that would have put him well over 100 yards. I'm pretty sure that would have been his first 100-yard game. He showed some stuff out there, and if he's going to be part of this team's future in a significant way, as in catching a few passes a game, that is something that I and a lot of Seahawks fans had completely given up on. And it looks like we might be getting that after all, because a lot of people were already looking on that as a lost pick. Doug Baldwin had a great game. He was somewhat quiet last week until the fourth quarter, or I guess I would say second half. And this game, he pretty much kept the pedal to the metal and put up good numbers. Thomas Rawls looked good at the start of the game. The offensive line showed some promise at the start of the game. There were some things in this game that made you feel a little better about where this team is going in the future. Defensively, that's a really good offense, so credit to the defensive line for making the plays that they did make. Rubin, Reed, Bennett, Clark, all those guys did make plays, even if they weren't involved constantly. It's really hard to be constantly involved when you're playing a team like the Atlanta Falcons. So I'm going to cut those guys some slack for the plays where they didn't contribute and give them some credit for the plays where they did. But that's kind of all the good stuff I can talk about, because a lot of this game was, let's start with the offense, because I had very little faith in the defense going into this game, and as this game went along, I had less and less faith in them, and by halftime, I had no faith in them, basically. And that's a problem that I'm going to get to at the end of this video, but I knew this defense just couldn't hack it by halftime. So in my mind, I was like, if we want to give ourselves even a chance to win this game, we have to play almost perfectly on offense. And the offensive line, which started the game off well, shit the bed starting in basically the middle of the second quarter. And for the rest of the game, we had very little opportunity to even pretend to be in this game. The run blocking went to shit after starting out really well. Thomas Rawls started this game like there was really going to be something there for us, and by the end, it was just another 3 yards per carry game. It was, a lot of tackles for loss, a lot of blown up plays in the backfield. What started out promising just completely went the way of many of our regular season games. And by the middle of the second quarter and the second half, couldn't run the ball hardly at all. Pass protection. God, sorry, couldn't think of the phrase in my head because I haven't seen it for so long. Pass protection started out good. There was a play on a deep pass to Paul Richardson in, I think, the second quarter where Gary Gilliam blocked Vic Beasley one-on-one pretty much perfectly, and I was like, okay, maybe we got something going here. Maybe we can stop this Atlanta pass rush. And then as the game went on, it got worse and worse, and by the end, Russell was getting hit. He was getting sacked. He was pressured. He was forced into bad decisions. Everything. I will say, on a couple of those plays, Russell holds onto the ball for too freaking long, which has been a problem this year for some reason. It's not been a problem before this season. I don't know where it came from. He has his mobility back, but seems like his instincts weren't completely there at some points during this game. And that brings me to the captain of all of it. Maybe it seems a little weird that I'm going to say this given what I just said about the offensive line's pass protection, but we needed Russell Wilson to be great, and he was okay. And in a season where Wilson has honestly disappointed me as much as he's pleased me, that didn't come out right, but you get it. I needed him to impress me, and I have to say I'm a little disappointed in the game that he played. He missed 2 touchdowns to Doug Baldwin, I think, in this game. I think he missed a touchdown to Jimmy Graham on a drive where we settled for a field goal. He's clearly pretty much 95% healthy, so he's not injured now, but the accuracy is just not there. He was very inaccurate on some of those plays yesterday, and I've seen him play much better than this in previous seasons, so I'm going to go ahead and say that he is still injured in a way that it's affected his mechanics, even if he himself is not actually unable to run as fast or throw as far or anything like that. It's just one of those things where his mechanics are still not where they're supposed to be because the injury changed the way he needed to throw the ball, and it was a rough season for him. I don't want to kill him. He played behind one of the worst offensive lines in NFL history. He got injured 3 different times, I think. It was a rough season, but it wasn't a very good one, and I was unimpressed yesterday, and I thought if he played better, we would have had at least a chance to be competitive at the end. That's the players on offense. I can criticize a lot of them. Coaching, offensive coaching, the holistic coaching strategy in general. I mean, if you just want to talk about game plan stuff, maybe we got away from the run too fast, although with the way the running game was working in that second half, maybe that was okay. Maybe we just can't do it. Jimmy Graham, again, 3 targets. He catches all of them. He catches a touchdown on the first drive of the game. And we'd rather throw it to Jermaine Kearse. And, I mean, I don't want to call out Paul Richardson for anything bad because he played so good yesterday, but goddamn, if we cannot use Jimmy Graham better than this, let him go. Let him go back to New Orleans. Let him go to Green Bay. Let him go to Pittsburgh. Let him go somewhere where he can shine. This isn't right. Some birds are not meant to be caged. Jimmy Graham, his feathers are too bright. This is insane. And I kept telling myself this season that when the playoffs come around, we're going to have some secret weapons in the mix for using Jimmy Graham a lot more than we do in a lot of these games, and it didn't happen, and it's very frustrating to watch. That's the play calling side of it. I think this is more of a Pete Carroll thing I'm about to say here, and I was very down on Pete Carroll after the game we played yesterday. He turned into Chuck Pagano yesterday afternoon. There's no other way to say it. We coached like we were afraid. And blame it on Carroll, blame it on Bevel, blame it on Wilson. Well, not really Wilson for this part of it, but 4th and 1, a few minutes left in the second quarter. We're down by 2, or Yeah, we're down by 2 at the 40-yard line, and we're punting. Halftime, 50 seconds left. We've got, I think, 3 timeouts. Got the ball at the 10-yard line, which I know sucks. We've run out the clock. 4th and 3. We're down by 2 touchdowns in the third quarter. We punt. I think we had another punt with like 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter when we were down by 2 scores. That is completely unacceptable to me. When those decisions were made, I couldn't even get angry because I was so shocked that we were doing those things. I mean, the early ones earlier in the game were bad, but I got it. But as the game went on, it got worse and worse. And it was so hard for me to even get mad because I just thought it was so stupid. Our defense cannot stop the Falcons. That's clear. Our defense is not good enough. They are better than us on their offense compared to our defense. They can go up and down the field pretty much whenever they want to. We cannot be punting on 4th and 1. We cannot be punting on 4th and 3. We cannot be kicking field goals on 4th and 2. And the problem was Pete Carroll or Bevel or whoever you want to put this on was coaching this game like we had the best defense in the league, and we don't. In fact, our defense today, for the most part, was actually pretty bad. I don't want to necessarily call anybody out too much for it because I understand you've got Steven Terrell out there, you've got Nico Thorpe, you've got DeAndre Elliott. Those guys should not be out there in a freaking playoff game, but it's what it is. The defense is not the defense that we're used to having. Maybe it's still better than a lot of other defenses, but I don't even know what to say about that stuff. Pete Carroll has always coached in a way that assumes the defense is going to do the job. And in his defense, in a lot of games, the defense does its job. They get off the field, they get the offense the ball back, they score, they get turnovers, and we find ways to win games when the offense seems to be playing very passively. I can think of many games in the Russell Wilson era where we played like that, and it seemed curious, but the defense came through. We cannot count on the defense to come through when we're playing in Atlanta with no Earl Thomas, no Jeremy Lane, no Deshaun Shedd, and that's what happens. I mean, that first 4th and 1, it pissed me off to no end that we were even thinking about punting it there in a game like this. And we punt the ball to the 1-yard line, and Atlanta drives 99 yards in 5 minutes, and I'm like, yeah, there you go. I almost feel like game over now. I don't know how we can come back from this. We get the ball with 50 seconds left. We basically run the clock out. It was Pete Carroll just expected the defense to come through for him, and there was every reason to believe that they weren't going to be able to, and he just stuck to it, and it drove me insane. He coached that game like Chuck Pagano yesterday. There's no other way to say it, and he has to be held accountable for that. I don't think he's lost this locker room. I was a little worried about that at one point. I don't really think that you can say that he's lost this locker room based off the way the team closed this season, but he completely misevaluated the roster that he had. So that gets to the defense, which I just spent a lot of time criticizing. And I want to be clear, no Earl, no Jeremy at later parts of this game, and no Shedd. Secondary demolished. Very little you can depend on back there. I understand. But at the same time, this defense has not forced an interception in like 6 games. We have Richard Sherman, one of the most prolific pass pickers of the last decade. We have, an all-time elite safety tandem, even though we missed Earl for most of this run, granted. We have great coverage linebackers on this team. We have one of the all-time great defensive coaches in Pete Carroll. We should not be going 2 months of football almost without any interceptions. I think the last interception was the fluke one against Carolina, Derek Anderson bouncing the ball off Mike Tolbert's hands into the hands of Mike Morgan, I think. So, yeah, that is, even bad defenses don't go that long without a freaking interception. So, I don't know if it's schematic. I don't know if it's bad luck. No, there is some bad luck in there. We know that for a fact. Let's be real here. But that has to change because this team used to pride itself on forcing a lot of turnovers, and we don't do that anymore. We haven't in 2 years. I think we forced one turnover in our last 4 playoff games. Yeah, we forced one turnover. Cam Chancellor forcing the fumble on Adrian Peterson. And even a bad defense, you would expect to force more turnovers than that. And I know this defense isn't bad, but it's gotten ridiculous how bad this team has become at forcing turnovers. That overrides a lot of the other good stuff you do. Like, we did a decent job against the run yesterday. Yeah, they had some good big runs on us, but we also had a lot of great stops in the backfield on Coleman and Freeman. At the end of the day, they averaged like 3 yards a carry as a team, 3.5 yards. Pretty good. We got some pressure on Matt Ryan. I know it wasn't great, but you guys have to realize Atlanta's offensive line is up there with Dallas and Oakland. So I get it. I get that it's not going to be easy to get pressure on Matt Ryan, but they drove up and down the field on us. 4 offensive touchdowns, obviously, 3 passing touchdowns. Matt Ryan had one of the games of his career. He was almost perfect. He missed a couple of throws. They were doing the dump-offs to the halfback. They were hitting big plays across the middle. Julio Jones was converting 3rd downs left and right. He got hurt, and it still didn't really matter. They were still moving the ball at will. And that isn't by itself a complete killer. Yeah, you would prefer that Matt Ryan throws more like 250 yards instead of 340, but you have to kill some of those drives with turnovers. You can't just force them to punt, get to 4th down and punt every drive. They're not going to do it often enough. You get them in 3rd and 14, they're going to convert it some of the time. You get them in 3rd and 8, they have a real good chance of converting that. You can't let it get to that point where you have to stop them for 3 straight plays. We need turnovers, and yesterday, we had a chance at one turnover when Frank Clark got the strip sack, didn't fall on it. Bad luck. I understand. That's bad luck. But this whole game changes if we can force even 1 or 2 turnovers. And it's a trend with this team now. We're not forcing turnovers. We haven't for a couple years. And I don't know if it's a scheme. I don't know if it's the players. But that has to be looked at this offseason. Other than that, special teams, on a day where things are actually going okay. John Ryan had some great punts in this game. Stephen Hauska made both of his kicks, or both of his field goals and both of his extra points. Devin Hester had some highlights returning kicks, although he also had some lowlights. It was still a net positive, especially over what we would have had without Devin Hester back there. Of course, it has to be a special teams play that screws us. 2 of them, really. One, Kevin Pierre-Louis, he's blocking on, he's doing the kick block or whatever, the punt block. He runs into somebody, gets bulldozed over, and he pulls the guy down with him. Holding. Meanwhile, Devin Hester runs for a 90-yard return or whatever the hell it was. Bring it back, 87 yards of field position, creates a safety, and from there the game completely turned. So that was a wonderful way to end a horrible year in special teams. 90 yards of field position almost lost because of a stupid special teams penalty. And yeah, sucky. Oh yeah. And beyond that, Devin Hester takes the ball out of the end zone right before the end of the half. We've got timeouts. We've got about 50 seconds. And he gets tackled at the 14, plus there's a holding call. We're back at the 7. Pete Carroll doesn't feel safe trying to actually do anything. We take a couple of handoffs. We're down 9 points. Chance to put up at least a field goal before halftime is lost. Thank you, whoever the hell it was who committed that frickin' penalty. And thank you to Hester for taking it out of the end zone. I'm I'm not going to waste time getting really mad at Hester, though. I mean, he played well. He did everything he could to put us in position to put up points in this game, and I don't know, guys. This video is going to be a little less coherent than some of my usual ones, I think, just because this is the first time in 5 years where I really feel like the team is going to look different next year. And it needs to look different because this is the first time where I can definitively say what we have is not good enough to win a Super Bowl, and that's the goal. The goal is not to win the Super Bowl every year, but the goal is to give yourself a team that can do it if you give them enough tries at it, and I don't believe this team can do it right now. So yeah, that's the game. A lot of problems in all three phases. This video has gone on way too long, but I think everybody's going to forgive me. It's the last game of the season. I'll talk about the moves that might be made or might not be made, or what I would like to see going into next season. But tough way for it to end. But one thing I'll say, Atlanta, and I'll say Dallas and Green Bay, clearly better than Seattle this year. All those teams, clearly more talented, clearly better players, clearly, I'm going to even say better coached. So we cannot feel bad like we blew an opportunity to win a Super Bowl this year. Maybe you could argue that we did, but realistically there were several teams in our conference who clearly were better than us. And I know Atlanta only beat us by half a game, and we beat them in Seattle, but right now the team that I see is light years ahead. And we would have hosted the NFC Championship game next week, too, which also hurts, just because it's fun to have home games. But let's try not to get caught up in that stuff too much. All right, season is over. Good season, but not a great one. And I like my teams to have great seasons, so I want to see something better next time. See you guys later.